You know, right now, in 2026, something huge is happening. The walls that used to separate the engineering department from the management suite, well, they're crumbling down. Today, we're going to dive into this really fascinating place where technology, finance, and construction all meet, and it is changing everything.
So, I want to kick things off with a question. Picture a huge skyscraper or a massive bridge. Now, what if I told you the single biggest source of waste wasn't about project delays or mistakes, but was actually something intentionally built right into the design itself? Something completely invisible. That's the core problem we're going to unpack today.
For decades, the industry pretty much looked like that column on the left. Engineering was a total black box. Managers just funded whatever the engineers said they needed, which, you can imagine, led to a ton of friction and padded budgets. But now, we're seeing this shift to the team on the right. Here, engineers are seen as value drivers, and managers are actually helping shape the design using real data. This isn't just a small change, it's a complete reimagining of how we build stuff.
Okay, so let's get right to the heart of that invisible cost I was talking about. This first section is all about construction's hidden crisis, the massive, massive financial drain that comes from just playing it safe.
And here it is. This is our villain, over-engineering. For like 100 years, engineers have added extra steel, extra concrete, just as a safety buffer. It was to make up for the limits of doing calculations by hand. And look, it comes from a good place. Caution is great. But in today's world, it's created a staggering amount of invisible waste.
And when I say staggering, I really mean it. We are talking about thousands of tons of extra steel and concrete just buried in the foundations and skeletons of our buildings. This is material that adds zero functional value to the structure. It's just pure, invisible waste that someone paid a whole lot of money for.
But what if you could actually see that waste? What if you could just eliminate it? Well, that brings us to our next part. The precision revolution, and it's all powered by a technology that is an absolute game changer.
So, the hero of our story is a software engineer called STAAD.Pro. Its superpower is something called finite element analysis, or FEA for short. And this is the tool that basically gives engineers X-ray vision into how a structure will actually perform.
Now, this might sound super complex, but think of it like a CT scan for a building. It's actually pretty straightforward. First, you create this perfect digital twin of the structure. Then, the software simulates real-world forces, wind, gravity, earthquakes, on millions and millions of tiny little pieces. The analysis shows you exactly where the stress is. And here's the magic part. It lets you optimize the whole thing, putting material only where it's needed and getting rid of all that wasteful padding.
Now, this level of precision isn't just an engineering marvel, it has a direct and really powerful impact on the bottom line. So let's jump to our next section and see how all this cool tech turns a design directly into dollars.
Okay, so if STAAD.Pro is the super smart brain doing all the analysis, you need a way to connect that brain to the project's money, right? Well, that's where a tool called RCDC comes in. It's like a high-speed bridge that takes all that complex engineering data and translates it into clear financial information that anyone on the management team can understand and use. And here's a perfect example of its power. RCDC automates two critical jobs that used to be super slow and full of human error. It creates precise drawings, and this is the big one. It generates a real-time bill of quantities, or BOQ. That's basically an exact shopping list of every single piece of material needed, pulled straight from the design itself. No more guesswork.
And the result? It's right here. That bar on the left is your traditional budget, all bloated with a 10 to 15% just-in-case contingency fund. But the bar on the right? That's the lean, data-driven budget. All that fat is just gone, totally replaced by precision. If you're a manager, this is an absolutely massive win. But this is about so much more than just saving money up front. In 2026, it's really about long-term survival. Let's dig into how this kind of precision actually turns resilience into a core strategic asset for a business.
I mean, let's be honest, we live in a world with an increasingly volatile climate. Using these tools, teams can now stress test their buildings against future threats, like way more extreme winds or different seismic activity, before a single shovel ever hits the ground. It's the ultimate in proactive risk management.
And this leads managers and investors to ask this exact question. It completely reframes the whole conversation. Suddenly, resilience isn't just an expense. It's a calculated investment you make to avoid a future loss that could be so catastrophic you couldn't even get insurance for it.
And that really gets to the bottom line, doesn't it? When you can prove a building is optimized for resilience, you are fundamentally changing its risk profile. You've basically quantified its long-term liability. And that is exactly what makes an asset incredibly attractive to top-tier investors.
Okay, finally, there's one more massive benefit here that ties this all together: sustainability. It turns out that an optimized approach isn't just great for the balance sheet, it's also great for the planet.
The benefit here is a perfect two-for-one deal. When you can engineer out, say, 20% of your raw materials, you're not just cutting material costs. With carbon taxes becoming a real thing, you're also directly slashing your carbon liability. Efficiency and sustainability literally become two sides of the same coin.
And what ties us all together is this connected digital workflow called the Integrated Structural Model, or ISM. Because it plays nice with other platforms, it creates a single analytical source of truth. This just crushes the information gaps between everyone, from the foreman on the job site all the way up to the CFO, and it gets rid of the miscommunications that have held back projects for decades.
So, to wrap it all up, we've basically hit a tipping point. Smarter, optimized design isn't just a nice-to-have feature anymore. In a world with intense economic pressures and a changing climate, it has become the absolute foundation of both financial viability and, frankly, physical survival.
Which really leaves us with just one final thought. The direction this industry is heading is crystal clear. It's going to be lean, it's going to be data-driven, and it's going to be resilient. So the only question left is your blueprint ready for that future?